pretty much confirmed what I had believed, that our government's run by special interests and big business.
Right.
How do you propose to change that if you become president? Because you've got a lot of people that benefit from that.
It's a great question. It's a great question. Well, let me talk about it. First of all, you start by campaigning in a different way. So I made the decision very early in this campaign. I wouldn't take PAC money. I wouldn't take money from federal registered lobbyists. This is in contrast to Senator Clinton, who's taken more PAC and lobbyist money than any Democrat or Republican. And when she's been challenged on this, she says, well, lobbyists are real people, and they represent real people, and I have to differ with her. This is a problem. It is a systematic problem. I mean, yes, there are lobbyists who represent real people, but the lobbyists that have the real clout are representing the insurance companies and the drug companies and the oil companies and the gas companies. And they're the ones who are blocking health care reform, and they're blocking energy reform. And if they are giving you millions of dollars, then it will be more difficult, let's put it that way, more difficult for you to challenge them. You are more likely to listen to their perspective as opposed to the perspective of ordinary families and workers here in Ohio. So we said we're not going to take that money. That'd be point number one. Point number two. Point number two is I have a track record of working on these issues and bringing Republicans and Democrats together to actually reduce the influence of lobbyists. When I was in state government, I passed the first campaign finance legislation in 25 years. And it was resisted by Democrats and Republicans, but we got it through. Last year, in the United States Senate, I passed the toughest ethics reform legislation since Watergate, so that lobbyists couldn't give meals and couldn't give gifts and could not lend corporate jets to members of Congress, and that lobbyists would have to disclose the bundling of money that they were doing for members of Congress. And again, Democrats and Republicans resisted, but it was the right thing to do, and we got it done. So it's possible, I think, to reduce it, but you've got to have a plan. So for example, when I'm going into the White House, I've already said we're going to close the revolving door. You can't, if you want to work in the Obama White House, you will not be able to work for an agency that regulates a company that you used to work for and used to lobby for, and you will not be able to leave my White House and then go lobby my administration for folks that you used to regulate. We're going to close off that revolving door. So we've put forward some of the highest ethical standards that have ever been put forward for how our White House is going to operate. Now, one last point I want to make about this. A central ingredient of making Washington work is increasing transparency and accountability. This is what I meant when I said you guys have to be involved. You have to be paying attention. And my job is to open up the doors of government so you can actually know what's going on. And so I'll give you a couple of examples. I already passed a law that's already been signed and is being implemented where you can go on a searchable database, we call it Google for Government, and just tap in and find every dollar of federal spending, where it's going. So if there's a bridge to nowhere being built, you can find out who sponsored that mess. And if you've got a no-bid contract going to Halliburton, you'll be able to know what's going on. The point is that sunshine is the best disinfectant. If the American people know what's going on, then members of Congress and an administration, they start feeling embarrassed, and they start saying, oh, this is being written about, and people know about it, and that encourages better behavior. So I want to bring the same principle to health care reform. I have put forward a plan, as I mentioned earlier, that would allow every single American who needs health care to get health care as good as the health care I have as a member of Congress, and to lower costs for people who already have health care but are seeing their co-payments and deductibles and premiums going up. And you meet families all across Ohio, all around Cleveland, all across America. Heartbreaking stories. You know, mothers who are trying to figure out how to get their kid health insurance. The child's only 8, but has already been labeled as having a pre-existing condition. Or, you know, parents who just do without health care and are restricting what their kids can do because they just can't afford to get sick, get injured. Heartbreaking stuff. Families that have been bankrupt through no fault of their own because somebody got sick. So this has to be one of our top domestic priorities, and I intend to get it done. Now, I admire the fact that Senator Clinton tried to get health care reform done in 1993, along with Bill Clinton. But they did it the wrong way, because rather than trusting the American people, they went behind closed doors. They wouldn't even negotiate with Democratic members of Congress who had different ideas about how to get it done. And this is well documented, by the way. This is not my opinion. This has been written about extensively. You had Democrats like Bill Bradley who were coming saying, let us negotiate with you and we will find a bill that works. And Senator Clinton said no. And as a consequence, that increased the power of the special interests because the American people and the members of Congress didn't even know what the plan was, which meant that the insurance companies and the drug companies could go out there and try to paint this as socialized medicine. And by the time they released the plan, it was already dead in the water. So I'm going to do things differently. Yes, don't worry, I'm going to do it differently. I will, I promise. She's upset about the fact that we didn't get health care reform passed. So here's what we're going to do. I will have a big table, and I'm going to invite everybody around the table, and I'm going to listen to everybody. Listening is everybody says, Senator Clinton keeps on talking about experience. Well, one of the experiences I have is actually listening to people. So I'm going to listen to everybody. We're going to have the doctors and the nurses and the members of Congress and patient advocates, and I'll have the insurance and the drug companies at the table. They just won't be able to buy every chair. And I'll be at the table. I'll have the biggest chair because I'm president. So if people have other ideas, and I don't assume that I've got every single idea, it can be improved, and I want input, and we're going to have to make some compromises. But here's the thing. We're going to do all these negotiations on C-SPAN. So the American people will be able to watch these negotiations. So if they start seeing a member of Congress who is carrying the water for the drug companies instead of for their constituents and says, we can't negotiate for the cheapest available price on drugs because the drug companies need these profits to reinvest in research and development. I'll say, okay, well, let me bring my healthcare expert in here. And on TV, we'll ask my healthcare expert, well, what do you think about what the drug companies are saying? And what that drug expert will undoubtedly say is, well, drug companies do need some profits to invest in research and development, but a lot of what they're calling research and development is actually marketing costs for some of these TV ads you see where everybody is, you have all these people dancing in fields looking all happy. You don't know what the drug is for. Right? Except for that one drug, you know what that's for. You know what that one's for. Anyway, you get my point. Openness, transparency. You will hold me accountable. We'll hold Congress accountable. That's how we're going to get welfare reform, health care reform passed.